What's up, party people? It is good. You are here with another installment of that Set Apart podcast. I am Ren, and that is the wonderful Dee, and we are here back here to do it again. How you doing today, Dee?
I'm doing great. We back.
We back, and so we're gonna start with something a little spicy. Okay, so not too long ago, we seen something that I feel like, man, we probably won't like. We will have grandkids in our lifetime. We'll probably never see it happen again, and that was LeBron James taking down the all-time scoring title. I don't know if it will ever happen again. Just because if it was that easy to do, we would have seen it done 100 times over. We wouldn't have seen Kareem keep it for 39 years. Where I think Brian will keep it for longer than that. So our segment is kind of inspired by that, but we do want to tip our hat and give the flowers to LeBron James and the NBA for that accomplishment. But we're going to do something, and this segment here is called GOATed. If you don't know, if you are a listener and you don't know what GOAT means today in the culture, that's fine. You're just a little late to the party. GOATed.
You more than a little late.
A lot of late to the party. Greatest of all time, GOAT. And so GOATed. This segment, I'm going to throw some scenarios, some genres, some areas out to you, Didi, and then I want you to tell me who, in your opinion, is the GOAT in that atmosphere. So, for example, I'm gonna throw out, and whether you know it or not. Now I'm saying whether you know it or not, even if you don't have the most knowledge about this area, who's the person that comes to your mind? Because a lot of times, you may not listen to a certain type of brand or a certain type of music or whatever, but when you are the GOAT of that atmosphere, your name transcends cultures. So, here we go. Who is the GOAT rapper of all time, Didi?
First of all, I don't like this question because I don't believe there's a GOAT of anything. I think there's a GOAT of a time period, but I don't think there's a GOAT of all GOATs. But of as a rapper. Secondly, you gotta define rapper. Because sometimes rapper is a lyricist, sometimes somebody who's the best performer of all time. You know,
who's
it's a lot
that
goes into that. That's what I'm saying. So and the GOAT don't always mean it's my favorite person either.
True.
The greatest rapper of all time. That's so hard.
Ooh.
That's hard. Because I like a lot of rappers for a lot of different reasons.
You
know what? I'm gonna go with Tupac. And I'm only and not because of what everybody else think, because he can tell a story. And his cadence is nobody's been able to have that same cadence over a beat.
Okay. I respect that. Okay, I'm gonna go with, and this is gonna be controversial. Y'all eat us up in this comment section. I know it. And this is why I'm explaining why. I'm gonna go with Weezy F Baby. Okay, and this is why, Lil Wayne. This is why. It's because I have seen this man transcend cultures. Like not only was, I guess the hood people, if you will, if you had the label, was listening to him. Not only the suburban kids was listening to him. You would go to a skate park, they banging Lil Wayne. You would go to the suburbs of suburbis areas, and they was banging Lil Wayne. And so it wasn't all conducive to just that specific culture or specific area. I think it went everywhere. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. Okay.
All right.
And hopefully I throw you for a loop. Hopefully you don't hit me with a whole bunch of knowledge that I didn't know you knew about this space or atmosphere, okay? We are going to go to the GOAT poet of all time, the GOAT poet, who is goated as a poet. Now, I'm not talking about rappers, okay? This is different. I'm talking about what you do is poetry. You could put spoken word in there. Of course, that's a form of poetry. You could put just writing out literature. And I'm talking about you can take it back as long as you want to. But who in your mind is the GOAT poet?
Ooh, that's hard too. I'm going to say, this is so hard to say the GOAT. Because I don't look at it as a consumer. I look at it as, are you just good at what you do? I'm going to say, so many names run through my mind. I'm going to say, so many faces going through my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say me. Shoot.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, put it out there. Put it out there. Put it out there. Y'all heard it right here. Goated. DD goated.
I'm going to say me. I respect a lot of people, and that's why it was hard for me to choose, because I'm thinking way back when, I'm thinking current. But I'm going to say me just because I ain't putting it out there just to be putting it out there, and I only put it out there when it comes to me. I only write when it comes. I don't try to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to write today. If it comes to me, I write it down. And when it happens like that, it's good. So I'm going to just play it safe and say me.
Y'all heard it here first. We don't run from the smoke. We run up the chimney. That's how we feel. That's how we feel. Okay. All right. We're going to take a little shift. And hopefully you don't know nothing too much about this. But I feel like there's one answer that is the right answer in this one. Who is the GOAT? Who's goated when it comes to this skateboarding BMX life? What about that atmosphere?
Skateboarding and BMX?
Skateboarding BMX.
I don't even know that many people. So I'm going to say the one and only Tony Hawk.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that's the only right answer.
Is there any other skateboarder that has a video game?
Well, here's the thing. Know. Even if it is, we don't know. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Tony Hawk right here. Goated. All right. Now here, this is going to be the hard one. This is going to be the last one. But I'm telling you, DD, besides the comment section destroying us, I'm judging you hardcore for this, okay? Because this to me matters. And I think there's one definitive answer in my brain, but I'm going to put it out there to you first. I'm saying, when I ask you this question, I'm saying that they are the best in the atmosphere at what they do, even though there's multiple atmosphere within this atmosphere.
Okay.
The best musical artist, no matter the genre, who's goated, who's top all time?
You got to define artist. Is that singer or musician?
Singer, musician, all of it. All of it.
That's me.
All of it. I'm putting it all out there. This is going to be the most broadest one, but to me, it's like there's only a 1 and 1A to me in my mind.
Nah. It's too many.
It's
because some musicians can't. Some musicians are not the greatest singer.
Right.
And what makes them great is that they know that.
Right.
And some singers can't play a single instrument.
Right.
But they play their voice like an instrument.
Right.
And I just know too many, and I study this too much. And it's eras, it's too many genres, it's too many subgenres, it's too many. You see how people was going crazy over the Grammys?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's too much.
Oh yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. To me, my criteria has to be, one, it withstands time. Like, it's hard. Like, to me, with so many trends, with so many fads, with so many changes of styles, with the integration of auto tunes, with what they
that ain't
did.
even in my mind, so we don't even have to.
All of that stuff. It all matters. It withstands time to me, and this is what made me think of this. I was watching some Super Bowl performances. Mm-hmm. And trust me, like that last year's and trust me, I know Super Bowl is going to be great. They got, always got a stat card of performances on the halftime show. But to me, that one where Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, and all them, like, to me, I was like, bro, what? Like, can you get a better card than that? Like, I don't know if that exists. But I did go back in the vault and looked at old Super Bowl performances, and to me, goated. I'm saying it right now in the atmosphere. All right, I've never seen, and I never seen them in person, but I've never seen an artist such as Michael Jackson captivate an audience as he's done. I mean,
see,
I'm talking about
that tells me that's your criteria, because you said that for two different of these questions. It's about how they impact the audience.
Correct. I mean, but well, not only impact the audience, because they gotta have the cachet, if you will. You know, they gotta have the catalog as well. Like that's you can't come out here.
So you can't come out here and just. I know you coming from a consumer viewpoint, because when you answer, you like it's basically the impact across people of all areas, and they're the ones they can listen to it in this and this and this culture, blah blah blah. So you're looking at it from that point of view. When I judge GOAT, I'm looking at it is, can you have that same impact on the Super Bowl stage? Can you have that same impact in a jazz club? Can you have that same impact when you don't even sing, but people just know who you are? You could be doing a charity event, a book signing, but you him, as the young people say.
You him. Hey, I'm him. I'm him. Yes.
Yeah, because I look at it as how people, do you have a global impact, but how you impact me, like, because I don't go off of if a song is on the radio a lot, it means it's good. That's not how I look at none of this stuff. Because popularity don't mean quality. It just means that's what got pushed and that's what got funded, to me. So I give you Michael, though. I give you Michael. He is the greatest performer to me of all time. 1A. But and he can hear music. He's multi-talented. So that one is definitely hard to argue with, though. It's just hard to answer that question because
it is.
Because art is art.
It
and
is.
You can't like, for me, it's hard for me to say your art is better than someone else's art.
Right.
Because somebody out there is consuming it. Somebody out there is being impacted by it. Now, some people call art, and it's like, you just did that to get paid.
Yeah. And it's definitely different definitions, because like my 1A that's up there like next to Michael, to me, is like a Quincy Jones. And of course he wasn't like a big, he wasn't out there performing all the singers and stuff, like he's not a singer, but he had his hands in so much iconic, beautiful stuff. So much stuff. And I'm like, bro, he has to be up there, which if you know music, you know that he's behind the scenes of a lot of great pieces. But if you don't know music, you're not just going to sit up here and say, oh yeah, Quincy Jones, he's great.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's an artist, but he's not a performer.
Right.
He's a composer. He's a writer. He's an arranger. And his name can bring whoever he wants in the room to perform.
Right.
So that's what I mean by, like, there's artists, and then under artist umbrella is singer, dancer, performer. Can you do a live show? Can you sing can you sing live, period? Can you dance and sing? Because some people, that's why they got Beyonce up there, because homegirl be singing in heels and dancing for an hour and a half. I can't argue with somebody and keeps her breath enough to hold a note.
Yeah.
And then talks between stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's not easy to do. I hosted a talent show and I lost my voice. I was not dancing. It was hard work doing this nonstop for an hour. So I just respect art. So it's hard for me to choose. If I'm just thinking about it as fanning out, I honestly don't have a favorite. I have a favorite of times in my life. Right. That's how I consume. Because in the 90s, whatever's on the radio was it. Yeah. We didn't have access to nothing but the radio.
Right.
Whoever had a video out, that's my song. Mm-hmm. Every song came on, that's your song. But I mean, for the sake of this argument, I guess I could give it to, if I'm gonna say best performer of all time, I would say Michael Jordan. Michael
Jordan. Hey, greatest performer. But Michael Jordan is a musician, huh?
No, but the reason I say that is I have the same mindset when it comes to greatest basketball of all time. Not because he's the best, but I think greatest means that people use that and said, I'm gonna reach that and go beyond. So you have to have a standard. So I think MJ set the bar like ain't nobody selling out arenas across the world, outdoor concerts with over 100,000 people fainting and all that stuff.
Fainting.
Like being trampled and all kind of crazy stuff outside in like Belgium somewhere. And then you got people that's like, oh, MJ did that when in 1991. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do even. So when people set the bar, when you're the standard, when people say, well, she ain't Beyonce, that means she's somebody's standard.
Right.
And she don't even have to be my favorite, but you got to respect that. Like MJ, they got the movie coming out about how his shoes came along. Right. Nobody else was doing that. Right. So now the goal is I'm going to get me a shoe one day. But then I'm going to be this. Ain't want a ring, but I got a shoe.
Right.
So to me, the greatest, if you're going to put it like that, it don't even have to be my favorite, but you got to respect the hard work that people put in. Even Prince could do a show. Yeah. He wasn't doing that many people as often as Michael, but he could do it.
Yes.
And that little Negro was, he was dancing in heels and playing the guitar and singing.
Yes, he really was. He was. Like, he got that Prince style.
And he got a deep voice. Yeah. His talking voice is real deep, but he could, like, singing wise, I think he sings better than Michael. Yeah. But it's just like, that music is hard for me. I thought you was going to come out with greatest country artist of all time, and I was ready. Who's
gonna be that then?
Dolly Parton.
See, okay, listen. I understand. Okay, I understand.
For the same reasons I just said now.
I hear you and I understand. I would not know. I would say in my older age, sorry for the older people that listen to us, I consider myself seasoned, but a little premature. I understand. But I'm not that well versed in Dolly Parton.
That's the crazy part.
But I can come out here and say that, like, I listen to a lot of country music now, and so for goated, I couldn't say Dolly Parton because I can only name 2 songs.
But that's the thing. She wrote songs that was sung by R&B artists. She was in movies, multiple movies. And she just put out a single last week. I'm like, what is this girl doing?
Did she? Doing? I know she did something. She did like a Miley Cyrus, like a collab type album thing that she just did.
She just put out a song because she felt like it last week.
That's crazy. How old is Dolly Parton?
Exactly. That's the point.
Somebody light up the comment.
Dolly Parton is the GOAT. She's still making music. She's been married for almost 60 years. And do you know her husband?
No, I don't.
GOAT. She's on Instagram, but you don't even know her business. That's a GOAT to me.
Ooh.
She was in movies. Whitney Houston's biggest hit is a Dolly Parton song. She wrote "I Will Always Love You" and some other stuff.
Wow.
It's Dolly's song. And she said, yeah, this little young lady named Whitney, you could sing it.
Wow. Okay. You just put me up on game. Listen, if you're in the comment section right now, fire up a Dolly Parton song. You tell me who is goated in this country music area, in this musician area. Please fire it up because I need to be educated on what's happening. Like,
and tell me down for the social causes.
Yes, she is.
And she put her money where her mouth is.
I do know that much about her. That's good. That's awesome. Well, let's pivot. That is goated. That was goated. We will do that another time. And you just once again in the comment section, fire that mug up. You tell us who your GOAT is in these areas and these atmospheres that we mentioned. Of course, I know that we didn't even scratch the surface of candidates that could be in this conversation because there's just so many. Like Didi said earlier, like it's so many atmospheres, so many people who were like just great in the space that they were put in. And so just to pivot to what we're doing today. And today we are talking about something that's near and dear to my heart because we need to realize something. And this is the question. the question of the day, or what we're talking about, the topic, the core, is, does representation in a space matter? Now, representation can look a little different for a lot of things. Now, we're talking about representation in general. Just because myself and Didi is of one culture, or a couple cultures, we're talking about all cultures, of all area, of all races, of any type of place that you can put. Does representation matter in general? Whether representation in media, what you see on your TV screens, whether it's representation in politics. I know a lot of people don't like talking about that, but when you have a voice in a room, it represents a culture. Representations in politics, representation in leadership, in terms of where you work at, your workplace right now, in schools, where your child attends right now, in universities. Does that stuff matter? Does representation matter? And if so, where, for us and for you as the viewer, have you seen representation really transcend into a changing of a culture? Something as believers that I believe is that culture is a forever thing that's going to be something that has a loud voice. And so as believers, the question that I have every single day that I walk outside of these doors is, what can I do to impact that in a kingdom focused way? How can I affect the culture? And so God has made me to be a believer. Of course, he's called me to be a believer in Jesus Christ, but he's also called me with my own culture. And so representation and culture, does that matter? I'm going to lob it up to you first, Didi.
Well, it absolutely matters for a lot of reasons. Like you said, we belong to different cultures, I guess, and then there's subcultures. So there's, of course, the outward appearance. So that could be gender, that could be your ethnicity, it could be your skin tone within that ethnicity. That matters. It could be what your hair looks like. So it could be a lot of outward stuff. It could be if you're short, tall, big, skinny, whatever. Then it could be, like you said, a belief system. So that could be your religion. It could be your political, I guess, ideals. I'm not going to say political party because that's not even enough. Two parties doesn't represent enough. I think your ideals, what's important to you. It could be in your community. It could be your zip code. It could be a lot of stuff. So I think it does matter. And I think it matters more than maybe we give it credit for. I think the world is shifting slowly but surely, finally, after, some of the events that happened for the world to see almost 3 years ago. And so we have things like, I'm going to say the politically correct term, diversity and inclusion and equity going on in corporate America. And then it trickled down to places like the church is trying to do that. But I think maybe a little too rigid when it comes to that, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I think because people are starting to see the value in it and why it matters, not just fighting against it. I think it was like almost like a cuss word when people used to say affirmative action, like it was a bad thing. I think affirmative action was an antiquated attempt at representation and inclusion, but I think it maybe was before its time and a little limited with what we knew, back in those years, but absolutely important.
Right. And we think of, and I don't want the viewer to think of representations in the form of minorities coming into the majority, in terms of like blacks coming into whites, Indians coming into whites and stuff like that. But think about it in the minority coming into the majority. And so, for example, let me tell you some people who kind of poster child of representation that you may not have known of. Okay, let me just do some in the music lane. Eminem, he was representation in that, and this is why. At that point in time, and of course multiple people before him, but he was just a huge artist. At that point in time, rap in general was just, everybody was African American, everybody was black, everybody was all the big artists, if you will, was that. And so then Eminem comes, and of course, like he got some backlash for being that person, but it was like, no, the world soon found out that he was all of substantial, as anybody of his competitors, as anybody of his peers, of any of his colleagues, representation. There's an actor right now, which once again, not being from this culture, I can't speak as to how good it is or how big this is for them. So if you are from this culture, please chime in to let me know. But there's an actor right now. I'm going to butcher his name. So I apologize to you, Didi. I apologize to everybody else, but it is, his name is, okay, Kumail Nanjiani. Exactly. You wouldn't know the name, but he is of Pakistani descent.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do I want you to understand this, but in American culture, he was one of the first Pakistani superheroes in Marvel comics. He played in Eternals. You've seen him in a lot of things. He played in so many different things. Lovebirds. He was in Man in Black. He was in so many things. But like here, he was in Central Intelligence. He was in so many things. And if you've seen his face, you was like, oh, I know who he is. Mm-hmm. But just be honest. In our world today, in American, I can only speak from America. I don't live other places. How many times have you seen a Pakistani headliner on the billboard? Yeah. How many times have you seen a Pakistani headliner be one of the top paid actors for a year? How many times have you seen these things? And so I just think about people who come from that culture. It's like for so long you haven't seen somebody accomplish that feat, and now you're seeing it and you're like, okay, representation does this, and that's just one example. Representation does this. If anything, it shines a light on the youth that you can obtain this. Mm-hmm. There's so many things, like say what you want about politics and a Barack Obama or something like that, but that being the first African American president, now in my mind as a young African American kid, I can do that. I thought it was just you had to be an older white man to be this thing, but now I see differently. So that representation changes things. And so that is one thing I think about, in media. I don't know. Listen, I need to look directly at the camera. I don't know if you guys know this, but the movie Black Panther was huge.
Yeah. For a lot of reasons.
Oh, so huge. And to me, it came at such an amazing time. Now let me put you in a time machine. Back when Black Panther came out, let me give you an exact date, because I'm not gonna play with y'all. I'm gonna hit y'all with the facts and the numbers.
2017.
Was it 2017?
Yep. It was announced 2017, and I can tell you the story why representation matters for that date reason.
Why?
So the trailer came out in 2017, right?
Okay.
My son was like 3 or 4, about to be 4, and the trailer came out and it stopped us in our tracks. Now think about all the little kids who still play with action figures, and Spider-Man is the man, right? Until T'Challa, because my son was in preschool, and it was the trailer came out around Black History Month, if not right before, of 2017. And the reason I know that is because the kids were told you can come dressed as any Black History figure that you want. Again, only the trailer had dropped. Only the trailer.
Right.
My son said, I'm going to be Black Panther for Black History Month. He was, to him, in his mind, that was his Black History figure. He did not say, I want to be Martin Luther King. He did not say, I want to be Malcolm X. He did not mention anyone else. As a 4-year-old, that impacted him greatly. Yeah. Because if I love Marvel and I'm a little boy, And this is the first time in my little 4-year life that I see someone that is dark skinned like me, even if it was a 60-second commercial, that changed his life.
Yeah. It's
never
a game
saw the
changer.
movie.
Yeah,
never saw
the game changer.
He couldn't dress up like him because there wasn't no costumes out, no toys out, nothing yet, because the movie hadn't dropped yet. But when it did.
But when it did, listen, when it did, I seen that next. I want to put a frame on probably the next Halloween, if you will, because you know you got people dressing up like this. I seen so many different races, cultures dressing up as Black Panther. Listen, in 2018, I don't know how old I was, but for my entire life, the superhero world has always been dominated by Spider-Man, always been dominated by Superman, always been dominated by Batman. And there's nothing wrong with those characters. So hear me right. Nothing's wrong with those characters. I've never seen other cultures dressing as the culture that I'm from.
But like, hold up, you guys. And it wasn't so much. Here's what's wild about it. You didn't realize there was a problem until T'Challa showed up. Because it wasn't. Batman was my guy. As a little girl, Batman was my guy. Because his movies was the coldest. Right. Like that voice, and all you saw was this.
Right there.
All you saw was his mouth and them eyes. Like he was cold. Yeah. He moved in the shadows. He was swift. You didn't know where he was coming from. Boom, done. You did. So it wasn't about, man, I wish we had a Black superhero. That was never even the thought.
Right.
The thing with representation is you don't know what you don't know. So the reason why it's such a big deal when it shows up, you're like, oh shoot, I didn't even know. You mean to tell me this character was created in the 70s and I didn't even know? Yeah. So then representation makes you do what? Go look for more. And then you start feeling like, I didn't even know this was a void that needed to be filled until I saw my son, who never sat down,
right,
freeze, and remembered the lines from a trailer. He wasn't old enough to see the movie.
Yeah.
He remembered the trailer. He rehearsed the trailer. That's how much of an impact that had on him. So it wasn't like, man, I wish Spider-Man was Black. Never the thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because there was no representation, it was like, oh, I didn't even know that I needed this so bad.
Right.
So then representation grew a certain amount of pride. Like, oh, we ain't going back now. It's like, I need some more. And the reason that the little kids that weren't Black were dressing up as T'Challa was because it wasn't just he was great because he was Black.
Right.
The movie was incredible. He was the coldest superhero to date.
Yeah.
The technology, none of that had ever been done before.
Right.
His family, his whole kingdom, all of that stuff, just the movie itself. So you have to be a severe hater.
Yeah.
If you didn't let your kids dress up as the greatest superhero to date.
Right. And so something else that I think that it was, to me, not only was it a culture shifter, but it was, and this is my last tidbit on it because I don't want to spend, we can spend a whole episode on Black Panther because that's how much I thought it was huge. But it was a breath of fresh air in a time where I think the Black culture needed it. Just because, let me take you in a time machine back to that era. It was a time where Black people as a culture, it was big in being victimized. It was big in what the police brutality would be. I mean, you were coming off the backside of Trayvon Martin. You were coming off the backside of so many young brothers. Ferguson, you were coming off the backside of all of these things, and it was very prevalent. And it almost left a lingering cloud, if you will, of, man, like I myself was like, bro, don't get caught speeding. Don't get caught slipping, because for a speeding ticket could be your last day. Yeah. Like I had those thoughts, I had those conversations. And so literally my thought process was like, man, like any day, here we go, like type thing. But then to see what Black Panther had done for the culture was like, man, like I'm coming out of I can be a victim at any day to, hey, I'm royalty. I am royalty. I know who I am. I don't have to live in that fear. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it happens, it happens, right? But like, I am royalty. I'm gonna proceed in my life as if I am royalty. I'm gonna live to that decree. I'm gonna have that bar to where that is outside of the superhero stuff. Yeah. Like it portrayed the breath of fresh air of, to me, Black and African American excellence that I needed to see in order to come from that victim stance to understand who I am, walk in that hey, I am royalty type mindset.
Listen, it was even deeper. Like, so the film itself, all of what you said, but even beyond that, the man who wrote it. Let me talk about representation. Ryan Coogler is from Oakland, California.
Oakland, stand up.
So the representation was just another level. Like, and when you talk about like knowing who you are and royalty and all of that, it was almost like telling them this. We've been trying to tell them we had this. We've been trying to show them. We've been begging for a seat at the table for the longest. We've been trying to tell them. We've been trying to tell them in all the award shows. We've been trying to tell them on TV, get us the roles, get us the roles, get us the roles. And they say, well, a black film will only sell to this audience. It will never be worldwide. What movie grossed the most money?
Black Panther at that time when it came in.
How many white people was on the cast?
One.
What's his name?
Oh, okay. Colonizer. I can tell you, bro. I can tell you.
Exactly. But Ryan Coogler wrote that mug.
Yeah.
Young Ryan Coogler with the most Bay Area accent I've heard in a long time. That man is Oakland through and through. Right. And it's like that kind of representation. You could be young and brilliant and be yourself, talk like you talk, walk like you walk, wear your hair like you wear your hair. Now, in the movie itself, when they even represented Oakland in the film, that was like, I'ma always represent for this movie. Because that's how people from Oakland feel like, oh, I'm from Oakland. Some people are like, oh, well, just say you're from the San Francisco Bay Area. No, I'm from Oakland. I'm not from San Francisco. Right. That's a whole different world. But it's that kind of pride. Like, we've been doing this. We've been putting out quality. It's not just because we Black and we just showed up and decided to work hard. We've been at this. We've been excellent. But you wasn't listening. So now that we got your attention, Wakanda forever.
Hey, let's edit that. So we talked about it in media, okay? Let's take a shift. I would be totally remiss if we didn't talk to it, speaking to the lives of the people who are listening right now. Now, we all work in a good place. Even if you, I don't know if you can love your job, you can tolerate your job, you can, hey, this is just something I do for a paycheck. But I need to let people know, or people sober up to the mindset of, the decisions that's happening at your company, the place where you work, it happens because representation. Like, you have to represent and understand what the people want in order to make things, cater towards the people, if you will. And so, at the place that I'm I'm not gonna say it out here. I ain't gonna say it out loud. Not for good reasons or bad reasons. I just don't think it matters. But so for the place that I work, I know the representation matters so much. Now, I work at a place where, at least to my eyes, okay, I am not sure that there is a African American who is in leadership there. I've never seen it. I've been here, over a year. I feel like that's a long enough time to see this stuff. I've been there over a year, and I haven't seen it. Now, you think, oh, like, everybody doesn't have to, have representation everywhere, but this is what it changes. This is what I see in the place that I work at. And this is not a detriment on them. You put the best people. I firmly believe that they put people in power, in authority, because the qualifications of that person. I don't think that they think, oh, they need to be representing this culture or whatever. So I no ill will on them. But you have things come up like, what federal holidays do you observe? Juneteenth just became a federal holiday. But what federal holidays do you observe? Now, I'm going to take a hit. Okay, I'm going to take a hit on this in the comment section. I know it. I would rather celebrate and have off Juneteenth than other things that we celebrate often. I'm not gonna put out what I would switch out, but I would rather celebrate that, me personally, than some of the other things that we do have off work. Now we're not gonna get into a debate of, oh, would you give this and take away that and this and all this other stuff? But what I'm saying is, I wonder, how will they know? How will they know that it means so much if they did not have somebody, to take your word, Dee, that had a seat at the table, who it felt as important to them as it does the culture? How will they know? So in terms of the workplace, representation matters.
Yeah. And I would say even I liken that to a political seat too, because that's why we vote for who we vote for, because we try to identify with, beyond policy. Sometimes it goes down to, is your personal experience similar enough? It doesn't have to be the same, similar enough to mine that you would at least hear my voice. You don't have to agree, but if it's close enough that you could empathize and not disregard or ignore. So I think positions, although we don't vote on leadership at the workplace, at least certain levels of employment don't. I think it's similar to that. Like, can I even take my grievance? Is my voice valuable enough to yours that you would even consider what I'm saying? Or you just, you say you have an open door policy because it sounds inviting and it's just a political move, a strategy to get you in a position of power. But I like in that situation to how you would look at somebody that represents your city as a mayor or your council member, stuff like that. Like, this matters to me. It should matter to you because, number one, you live where I live. You see where I'm coming from, or you have. Also in the workplace, what I come to it at looking at, like, sometimes representation matters if you are somebody in a position of power that used to be where I'm at right now.
Right.
So you represent what an entry-level person felt like before they got to the CEO. You could represent someone who is a working single father who always has something come up at the kids' daycare, or you have a sickly child who has a lot of medical needs. So you need the type of benefits that could help that person stay at work. So when you make those decisions on which insurance company to go with to purchase for your employees, you keep that in mind. So representation matters like that too. It also matters when with things like maternity leave.
Yes.
Because some companies, there was a time where if you're pregnant, that's a pre-existing condition that's not covered. So they treat it like all the other illnesses, like, well, you started this job pregnant, so I'm sorry, if you take off work, you just don't get paid. That happened to me. That happened to me. So I'm starting off my parenthood at a deficit because although you couldn't tell I was pregnant, because I have integrity, I came to you and told you, but I was penalized. So representation can matter. Somebody who just, do you identify, not even identify, can you hear me out? Because you might know or know of someone in a similar situation. So even beyond race, gender, and all of that, like, can you represent me because you understand where I'm coming from? And represent means you stand in my place for me. So because I can't get at the table, you should be able to. And because you should be able to be like, well, the people I represent need this. Not I need this. The people that I represent needs this.
That makes a lot of sense. And so I want to just speak to the viewers and say that for two reasons we need to highlight representation in general. One, everything that Dee just said was on point, on the dot. And so representation matters in terms of having that seat at the table. But if you do have a seat at the table, if you, the viewer, are the person that has a seat at that table, realize that there's a responsibility. There's not only a responsibility that we have every single day as for who we are, as for our families, as for who we represent and where we come from, but there's a responsibility that you are that voice you've been given. I had a former supervisor. I love her. We still friends till today. And she always put this out. She said, you have a seat at the table. You are in leadership. Understand what that representation means. That representation means you need to speak for all of those things that Dee Dee just said. You speak from a place where you came from. You speak from how the decisions that are made in the room at the table of leadership, how it has a ripple effect to the places in which that you come from. Now, you don't do it mutually exclusive as to, oh, I'm just going to look out for all of my people's needs, but I am going to make, as a leader, the best decision with taking in account all of those people whom that decision affects. You have a seat at the table, understand the responsibility, take ownership in the responsibility. There's a term that said, there's a phrase that always says, and I keep this close to me, heavy is the head that wears the crown. You have a seat at the table. It's going to be heavy at times, but understand that the responsibility is so much more important for a lot more people than yourself.
Yeah.
Representation matters so much. And so something that we did not get a chance to roll into too much, but I just want to end it off with this, and I'll let you have the last word on this. We talked about representation in media. We talk about representation in the workplace where people go to every single day, where we spend a majority of our time. Now let's talk about representation that you feel in terms of church culture. In church culture, we talk about being multicultural, and I am a big person on culture. Now, seat at the table in terms of a lot of people want to have a multicultural church. A lot of people want to have all those inclusions, but representation, once again, matters. Where do you feel that representation does go or does not go when it comes to the church?
Church people get on my nerves. I'm going to start there. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we always talk about what we want and we don't know what we're talking about. So I'll put it like this. We can say we want to have a multicultural church. We want to have a multicultural body of Christ, but we're lying. We want to look multicultural because when we are multicultural, everybody criticizes what's different. And really what you're criticizing is something that you don't know about. So since you don't know it, you rather kick it out, question it, instead of just getting understanding. And so I'll give a small example. We talk about the body of Christ looking like this. It should be included. Everybody should be included. There's no black church. There's no white church. Okay. That's terminology. And there's terminology for a reason, because historically that is what it was. So people feel safe in certain environments. I get that. The problem is when your safety becomes the opposite of your safety becomes this grave fear that something bad will happen to you if you worship alongside someone else, if you're not the majority. So one example would be Christian music. We don't want it to be mixed, even though we say we do. And when I say we, I'm talking about the church as a whole. How many times have we said, well, on both sides, well, what this group is doing, that ain't gospel because it got this kind of beat, or that's not CCM because somebody rapped on it. Like, what are you even saying? Yeah. What are you saying? So my problem is we can't preach preference. If it's not the word, it's your preference. It's your personal preference. So when we get away from preaching what's in the word of God and in the Bible, I don't remember seeing there was cultural differences, but there was not racism because there was no race. This is just where homegirl was from. But that was it. It stopped there. So if we say we want to be multicultural, that means we need to include people that look different, sound different, worship different, and not single them out if they worship different. If I'm from a culture where church services are quiet, that's just what I'm used to. That doesn't mean I'm against raising my hands and dancing. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I can't be quiet in church, so I'm sorry. So don't invite me if you want me to be quiet. Do it. But what I'm saying is, don't critique other ideas or understandings of God, because that's between that person and God. So if you want to have a multicultural church, you have to be open to someone worshiping different than you. Yes. And you have to give them the space to do that without making a comment every time they do that. So when you give the space, but don't try to take the space back and try to dissect and analyze and do all this stuff. Is God God? Yes or no? Right. Do I know him? Yes or no? Do you know him? Yes or no? How I know him is really not your concern. The main goal and our responsibility as believers on this earth is to add to.
Right.
But if we're wasting our time taking away because of technicalities and style and preference, then we're really defeating the purpose. So that's my take, and I'm gonna calm down.
That's good, because I call it the keys to the car. So I serve, and I am home of a church called Higher Vision in Reno. And we have a leadership team of there's people who are Caucasian. Is that the right term? White people. There are people who are Hispanic, and then there's myself, who's an African American male. And so I preach to them all the time in leadership meetings that the seat of the table matter. And multicultural, I'm all about, tell me what it is. Don't tell me what you want it to be, really.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I am. So, like, you got a lot of churches every single place saying, oh, we want to be multicultural. We're a multicultural church and stuff like that. No. Hold up. Pull it back. Is that a catchphrase? Is that what you're putting on the banner? Or is that really what it is? Because this is what it takes. And I tell my leadership team this all the time. This is what it takes to be multicultural. In terms of, let me use an example of, if this car is driving, in order to be multicultural, you have to hand the keys over to somebody of that culture. Now, one thing that I have a hard time with, and I'm going to say I have a hard time with, I'm not going to say whether this is right or wrong. I have a hard time with even myself saying, oh, I want to do something for the white community. Let me do this, this, and this, and this. Now, keep in mind, not one day of my life has been spent as somebody from that culture. Not one day, Didi, not one day. Or if I say, hey, I want to do something for the Hispanic community, let me remind you that not one day of my life has been spent in that culture, living that real experience. And so what I mean by that is that if we say that we're multicultural, we got to hand over the keys. We can't sit up here as a white person and say, oh, I think this will be amazing for Black History Month because all of my Black people would love it. What do you
First
mean?
Of all, there's a lot wrong with that statement.
There's a lot. What do you mean? And so, like, multicultural doesn't happen from one person. It happens from, wait, I'm about to spoil this. This sounds crazy. I'm about to blow your mind. Multiple cultures. Multicultural happens with multiple cultures? Yes. It happens with the multiple cultures. That means, so in terms of a worship set, maybe that means a worship leader, and this is just the easiest example. That means in terms of a worship leader saying like, hey, you're from this culture. What is something that you think from the culture that you're from would be, a good representation of that? And we're constantly giving the keys like, hey, this song, you take it. This song, you take it. This time, you take it. Because multicultural happens when you invite multiculturals, not just what it looks like. I know so many, and from the digital marketing world, you know this, Didi. I've done this for years. Any place that I've ever worked for. We Google stock photos. There's a whole website, and I'm not gonna give all the tricks of the trade out, but there's
already know because they use it.
Exactly. There's a stock website where you can go and get photos, and it'll show an Asian kid sitting next to a white kid, sitting next to a Black kid, sitting next to all this other stuff. And so you put those on your billboards and you put that on your promotions, and it's like, yeah, we're a multicultural church. But that is not the definition of multicultural. Exactly. I literally say something. If I see a billboard, a postcard or something like that, of like that stock photos, I'm like, no, what are we trying to do? No, throw this away. No, none of those people go here.
It's not even that hard. We making this a thing. Like, if you want multiple people to come, different types of people with different backgrounds to come to your church, just ask God. Why are we trying to make something? Like, we trying to sell food. We trying to sell Mexican food, soul food, and fried rice, and hopefully this appeals. It actually does the opposite because people know what you're doing.
Yes.
Why instead of trying to make something happen, ask God, what do you want us to be? How about that? Let's start there.
Yes.
And if your heart is okay, we want to reach people of all different nationalities. First of all, if they come, what you gonna do?
Right.
Do you even have anything for them to offer?
Right.
Like, and secondly, just ask him how about you tell us the strategy instead of us trying to be too smart for our own good. You made people, show us how to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then how about you help us remove some of these antiquated ideas that we have about multiculturals and just say, well, if we sing a song in Spanish, we did it. No. If you don't know no better, ask the King of all kings. Hello, how you a church and you don't ask him? That don't make no sense. That's why we look silly. That's why your postcards and your mailers have all these different races of kids holding hands, and then you have the one with the worship hands, all the different shades of brown. That's why you do that. Because how about this? Take pictures of your own congregation.
Wow.
But you don't ask God because we trying to be smart. And that's the problem. We making this a bigger deal than it is.
Yeah.
And honestly, if your heart is just, we want the people in our city, our community, to have a place to go where they feel accepted enough to let God do the work. We don't even have to work that hard.
Right.
Let him do it. He's not trying to hold us back. Let him do it. And then the strategies will come. The ideas will come. But if we trying to push something that's not him, let it be organic.
Right.
Or take your church to them instead of trying to get them to come to your church.
Mm-hmm.
Do something outside in another neighborhood that you never wanted to go into. How about that? And just go talk to the people face to face instead of trying to appeal.
That's real.
It happens in my line of work all the time. It started off with just like, well, we don't know who our students are, our customers, because I work at a university. Then it became 75% of them are Black. So we ain't got to use stock photos no more. We kind of got to use the other way around, stock photos, so the other people don't think we're in HBCU. And that's a fact that question gets asked. Are y'all only? No, that's who's graduating right now.
Mm-hmm.
Praise God for that.
Praise God. Yeah.
But if it's who you are already, you ain't got to do no stock photos. So how about let's be organic with it instead of trying to get people to come in? Let's go to them. Isn't that what we was called to do anyway?
Facts. That's good. And so just I guess, if you will, closing remarks. I want the viewer to understand that this is all about unity. This is all about representation. This is all about having a voice. This is all about the responsibility of having a seat at the table. If you are those leaders, and also if you're being impacted by those decisions, understand that one day you may be very well that leader that is having a way to will or having a voice in the conversation. And once again, we don't get to dictate everything that happens with these leadership decisions. We don't get to dictate, even if our voice is heard. But we just need to let you know that representation is the idea, is the reality of having a voice in the room. It is having a voice in the room and what that does, and the powerful thing that does. And so ideally, if you are somebody of a bigger role, or you have a lot of authority in the place that you work, in the atmosphere that you operate in, I would like you to think about these things. Think about what the effect in the atmosphere that you have, that representation does or does not have currently, because everybody got to start somewhere, in the place that you are. And so once again, this is a message of unity. This is a message of not one over the other. This is how can we come together, not only as the body of Christ, but as people who believe in that unity, to create a better world, affect culture in a positive way. Didi, you got any last remarks?
I do. And I'll just say, I would take it down to a micro level that sometimes representation just matters. Not so much you trying to change your city or your whole church or your company. It could be your family. It could be your classroom. I have my 5th grade teacher. She was representation to me, because although my mom had gone and graduated from college, because that's your parent, it seems kind of far away. At the time, my teacher she was 25 when she started teaching our class. And she would always talk about, like, high school and graduating with honors. And then she talked about how she went to college and she made it sound so exciting and how proud she was of herself for finishing and this and that. And I remember just that. I had never met a young person, number one, who talked about and loved her education to the point where we thought past high school. She was young and she was married and had her kids with her. And they have fun. It looked appealing. So she represented what a young, successful Black woman looked like to me, because everything else I saw was like, oh, that's on TV. I see it, but it's not like me. It ain't from where I'm from.
Exactly.
She don't go to my church, and my teacher went to my church. So I saw the circle, and I'm like, dang, that looks so like, I think I want to do that. I want to do that one day. And so that impact followed me my whole educational career. And I always thought about, this is who I'm representing people from my city, from my church. So they were representation to me. And now I'm representing them where I felt like I carried them wherever I went, you know, all the way through graduate school. So I would just say, as last words, representation isn't just in media, in big time things and companies and things like that. Sometimes it's in your own house.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's in your own neighborhood. Sometimes it's just the person you were kind to. Maybe you never even talked to them personally, but they saw you talk to someone else. I'm like, wow, I just saw how kind they were to that person. And I think that's something that's doable for me. I can do that.
Right. That's good.
It don't have to be big, but it can be impactful.
That's good. Mic drop moment. If you're in the comments right now, put in what your thoughts. We want to actually have that dialogue, have that experience with you. What is representation? Where do you see it? How can you affect it? And what steps can you take today to make a better world out there for everybody and the people coming up later? So that has been the latest installment of Set Apart Podcast. We're going to hit y'all with another one here real soon, but we can't wait to have more dialogue with you. So peace, love, and applesauce. Say bye to the people, and change your toothbrush. Bye.
Hey, this is your girl Dee Dee from Set Apart with Ren and Dee Dee. Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest installment. Don't forget to subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts.